Hey guys, Houston Productions 1 here again today, and today I have a tutorial of sorts, or really just an explanation on how I make my custom minifigures. Now, as of the filming of this video, I am making my Fantastic Four minifigures, and so I'm going to be showing you some tips and giving them as explanations of those tips. So let's get started. First, for paints, generally what I use for paint is apple barrel glossy paint. Now you don't want to just use normal apple barrel, because when you do, it becomes very scratchy and rough and just plain, it's just not good to feel. And when you put your hands on those Lego minifigures, it's just like, what is this, gravel? And so really what you want to do is use glossy. Now glossy makes things about as smooth as an actual Lego torso will. Now to apply my paints, many times I either use a paintbrush or a paint pen. Now I used to use paint pens a lot. Nowadays I don't do it as much, but I still do sometimes. Mostly because they've got such the fine tip that it's nice to do the minifigs with, and instead of having to dip your thing back into the paint, it always is coursing out of the, tip. But paintbrushes are great too, and for paintbrushes I don't really put too much sweat into it. I buy the cheapest ones I see at Walmart. Another thing I use is toothpicks. Now obviously toothpicks, the brand doesn't matter because all toothpicks are the exact same. Now these toothpicks are great value, whatever, toothpicks. Now they've got, that's pretty much all you can say about toothpicks. They've got the finest tips that you can find, honestly, for things. The only problem with toothpicks is that sometimes they can scratch your Lego, and sometimes they just don't maintain the paint well, to where when you use them, the paint will come off super easily and you have to keep dipping it back in just to get a fine line. They do work well sometimes though, especially when making small dots. And finally, the last thing that I use sometimes is an X-Acto knife. Now this is the one thing that even more than toothpicks can harm your Lego. But if you use it the right way, it can totally work well. It does have the same disadvantages as the toothpicks though, in that it can't hold the paint in like a toothbrush or, a paintbrush could. And one thing about the paints, though I often use apple barrel glossy, Tester's paint is great too. And in fact, I think it applies to the surface of Lego and just blends with the actual texture way better than apple barrel does. It still is a little bit more expensive though, and I don't know. There's just something about it that's not as easy to apply as apple barrel is. I always get a Lego just pole or rod or something like this that I can put the pieces that I'm painting onto, because you don't want to get your paint too much on the rest of the torso or the rest of the body. So don't keep it on a Lego body unless you're ready to ruin that body completely by getting paint all over it. So I usually get a pole like this and I put the hairpiece or the head or whatever I'm doing on top of it, or the helmet, like this. Sometimes in situations like this where I'm painting the entire Hulk's body to turn him into the Thing from Fantastic Four, I put him on a giant plate and then put a brick underneath so that I can hold the plate without getting my hands too dirty. Now here's an interesting topic. For sculpting, like I've done on Rocket Raccoon here, I've often used this bake shop clay, Sculpting, and it's very good. It's hard to mold, I will say, and you just kind of have to work with it a lot. Now what I'm planning on using from this point on is something I've heard many people use called green stuff, and apparently you can buy it at Walmart or something. But instead of having to be oven baked like this, it hardens on its own, and apparently it hardens very, very well. So, I'm probably going to be using that after this. Another thing I've used to sculpt one time has been hot glue. Now as you can see, there's a lot of roots all over this Groot custom minifigure, on his torso here, on his legs and everything, just wrapping all around, and that is actually hot glue that I then painted over. Let me give you a run through of what I'm going to be doing with this Reed Richards custom minifigure for Fantastic Four. I'm going to be using toothpicks to make all the small, just silvery lining pieces around his costume, including the springs that are attached to his arms back there, and some of the lining around the costume. You know what else I'm going to be doing is actually what I've already done, and that is, this entire figure used to be a printed body, and I used this glossy paint to paint over the actual body and turn it black. as you can see, it blends fairly well, even though you can tell just a little bit that there used to be a print behind there, since you can see the clay overlapping on top of it. If I choose to do stubble on his face, I'll probably get some of my brown glossy paint and get a tiny thin layer of it and put it over his just chin there. As for the Thing, as you can see, Hulk's body shape isn't quite that of the Thing. The Thing's more rocky. So what I'm going to be doing is using that green stuff. And it's funny to say that because that's actually the real thing, the real title of the brand. But so I'm going to be using green stuff and putting that over his face to make it more rocky, and possibly over some of his arms, just to make them more 3D and more rocky like the Thing is. Also, I'll be putting it in the indentations in the hair so that the hair will not look so, well, hairy? So there you have it. These are my custom minifigures that I'm working on at the moment. Fantastic Four, and as you saw, Rocket and Groot put a lot of work into those as well, and I'm glad you got to see those again for first time in a while. Now, both of those involve sculpting, as I said. Rocket's face was used using the Sculpey, and that took a long time to do, but I would still recommend Sculpey if you cannot get the green stuff that I mentioned earlier. So, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you will go out and make your own custom minifigures. And as you know, I am still improving. There are many tips that I have to learn, just being inspired by other customizers. But I hope that you will enjoy these Fantastic Four figures when they come out, and that, as I said, you will go and get inspired to make your own. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.